Howdy Vine Trippers. I wanted to take just a moment to talk to you about the Texas Wine Lover website and their phone app for both iPhones as well as Google devices. You can actually download this app, put it on your phone, or just go to the website if you're not an app person. And if you ever want to go visit some of these great locations that we've been talking about in the podcast, this will give you a great information about the place before you go. And you'll be able to find other wineries in the area. So if you want to make a day of it, go see several other places as well. You can search by region. You can sort the listings, find ones that are kid-friendly, family-friendly, even ones that host RVs. All kinds of different sortable listings you can find there in that app and on the website. You can find other things as well in the area like restaurants, accommodations, maybe events that are going on at the different wineries. So it's your one-stop resource that goes hand in hand with this podcast to be able to find those great places to go visit. So check out the Texas Wine Lover website. It's txwinelover.com. Or go to their app. You can find it on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store as well. Enjoy your trips among the vines and use that app. Welcome to Texas Under Vine, an exploratory podcast to scout out the best that Texas wine country has to offer. I'm your wine guide, Scott, and I'm here to lead you on an auditory expedition to the vineyards and wineries across the great Lone Star State. Each episode will cover a different vineyard, winery, or wine-related business operating in Texas. You'll hear interviews, descriptions, and details about each location that will excite you to visit and experience them for yourself. Ready to plan a wine tour? Use these episodes to choose the most interesting spots for you and your friends to check out. Most of all, enjoy hearing about the rapidly growing wine industry in the state and what makes our wines and wineries the best. Howdy, fellow Vine Tripper. Welcome to episode 36 of Texas Under Vine. And for this episode, I traveled a little bit north of the Austin area to an area called Temple, Texas. Went just a little bit east of there to visit a smaller, a little lesser known fruit winery called Moose Goose Winery. Now, this particular winery is actually only open one weekend per month, so you got to make sure to check the calendar before you go. They mostly make fruit-based wines and have a really interesting story. So the winery itself was started by John and Melissa Lemke. They are retired military who were stationed up in Alaska and fell in love with wine and decided to travel to wineries wherever they would get stationed. They loved to go to the countryside and visit all kinds of different wineries and enjoy wherever that place had in mind. And they decided to start making some wine in their own kitchen and had a blast doing that and decided they might want to start this new venture of a winery. And being from the Pacific Northwest, they came up with the Moose part of the name of the winery and the logo. And through a story you'll hear about in the interview, they came up with the goose part. And then it became a matter of where are they going to start this winery. Now they got stationed here in Texas, and they had always planned to move back up to the Pacific Northwest and maybe start their Moose Goose Winery up there. But as you'll find out in the interview, circumstances changed, and they decided to stay here in Texas and retire here. So they opened up Moose Goose Winery on their 41 acres of property that they have there outside of Temple, Texas. Now, they don't make wines like you might think, in that these wines are not made from grapes. They're made from different types of fruit. So they are fruit wines, but these aren't your sappy and syrupy grandparents' fruit wines. These aren't super sweet, although they do make some sweet wines. They do work on fermenting many of these to a dry state. Now, they almost taste slightly sweet because they're very fruit forward with the fruit flavor, but they used apple juice as the base mixture for this and add in different types of fruits, all fresh fruits. They don't put fake flavorings in. They use fresh fruits to ferment these and get different types of cool fruit wine combinations. Now, John and Melissa really work at trying to bring out the real flavor of the different types of fruits that they have in their different wines. If you're a little skeptical, that's okay. Just have an open palate and go try something. You might be surprised. You're going to find some wines here that have some of the base tasting notes you have in your normal wines, like plum. They have a plum wine. And how many times have I heard somebody drinking a regular grape-based wine and say they taste notes of plum in there? Well, now you can actually taste the plum wine. So you're tasting wines that actually have these base tasting notes in many of the wines that you know and love. Now, when I went to visit, I was able to sit down with both John and Melissa and hear a little bit about their story. They are very hospitable and eager to share their story of their wines, as it's, again, a little different from others that you might be familiar with. So I encourage you to check it out. Now, for this particular interview, they weren't ready to do video, so this is going to be an audio-only podcast, but you can listen in on their story and hear this interview. Well, let's get to it right now. All right, well, I'm here with John and Melissa Lemke of Moose Goose Winery, and we're just a little bit outside of Temple, Texas, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about what they have to go on here. So first off, tell me a little about yourself. How did you get into this industry?
Okay, so me and Melissa, I spent 27 years in the military. We actually met in Alaska in Fairbanks, got married in Juneau. And after that, still traveling around in the military, we just found that we loved going to wineries. So everywhere we would go, every place we got stationed, we would find new wineries. We then eventually got, the bug and decided, hey, I bet we can make this in our own kitchen. So we started making it in our kitchen and doing little small batch. And just through the years of traveling and being able to do that and meeting other wineries and then talking to them, we kind of found the wine that we like to make the best. I'm not going to be honest with you and say it's not the one that we drink the most, but it's very good wine. We like it, we drink it, but we, as we say, we tell people all the time, we like all wine, everything from your reds to your whites to your fruits and your sweets and your non-sweet, so we just kind of developed that way and we just kept going.
Haven't met a wine you don't like yet, huh?
Well, I can't say that, but
that's going a little too far.
Yeah. But I will say that every wine is unique in itself, and I think that's the one that I like the most. Is that when you get wine drinkers that come in and realize that wine can be on a full spectrum. And say that I try not to get so stuck that I'm only going to drink this dry red or this or I like to taste them all and then taste what is good about that wine.
Well, and we all have our own palates, right? And they're all different. But you always, in my opinion, have to approach it with an open palate. Because if you get in your mind, I don't like this varietal, or I don't like this particular kind of wine, or things like that, you're going to miss out on some things that could really surprise you. And for many years of my life, I didn't really think I liked wine at all until I took that first drink of a Merlot and went, whoa, there's something there. If I hadn't been open to trying, I might not have found things that I really like,
I find that a lot with people. We will get people specifically as a fruit winery. We've had people walk in and they go, do you have a dry red? And we're like, we're a fruit winery. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, okay. And they leave, and it's like, you just kind of lost out because a lot of the wine tastings that we go to in the festivals give us the best opportunity because then people will experiment. And honestly, ours, they're a little shocked by it. Because they're used to hearing sweet wines and they're thinking just this sugary sweet, and they find out that a lot of our wines are not that way. It brings out and enhances a fruit that's more of a wine taste.
Well, tell me a little bit about this location's history then. How did you get started and how long have you been here and what is it you're doing here?
So we moved here in 2016. I was stationed at then Fort Hood. And so we started, of course, got right into going and hitting all the wineries and everything. And what we found down here is that, because again, I'm going to say is that we have a different, unique way of making our fruit wine. And so we always try to find the fruit wineries and see what they're making here. And we kind of noticed that in this area, and then talking to a lot of the wineries, we found that there weren't a lot of wineries that focused on fruit wines. We became, like I said, it kind of goes into why are we Moose and Goose? Well, because we developed the whole concept of the winery when we were stationed in the Pacific Northwest. And so when we got down here, we already had the print, the label. We had everything ready for the concept that we were going to go back to the Pacific Northwest. And had an opportunity here. I ended up decided it's like, the heck with it. We're going to retire. And we found this 41-acre farm here in Temple, which kind of fit with our whole concept, and knew that Texas maybe needed somebody like us to give them a little bit different wine. And so we decided to stay.
Well, tell me a little bit about, so Moose and Goose. I get Moose from the Northwest. How'd you pick the Goose part?
So it actually started out is that our name of our winery was always going to be something based off of Goose. Our daughter's nickname is Goose. We call her that. As a baby, she used to honk at us all the time. So she became Goose, and we then just kept playing on those terms. And of course, being in the Pacific Northwest, then we just decided that we would go with Moose and Goose. We thought that kind of fit really well. The print that we have, like our label, that is an original watercolor by an artist in Tacoma, Washington. And we found her on a fluke and commissioned her to make our own personal print. And so we have the original watercolor hanging here in the winery, and we then use it for our label, which then the horns on the moose were taken out by another graphic artist who made the logo, which is our logo then. And so everything kind of fit. And then again, like I said, we ended up coming down here, had everything already done. So Texas got Moose and Goose.
I love how you had this, like, it was almost like a complete package. It was just ready to sit down and go with it because you already had everything planned down, everything ready to go. It's almost like a franchise, just ready to plop down and get started.
Yeah.
It's one thing hard when you're with the military for so long that you don't have a home anymore. You know, where are we going to end up?
Yeah.
So
you'd already gone through all the ideas and just ready. Okay, wherever we settle, this is what it's going to be.
yeah.
Yeah, we used to travel, like when we were stationed in Hawaii. Anytime we'd come back to the States, we'd always divert somewhere and just take these small little flights or these little travel out to some obscure place in Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, South Dakota. I mean, we just go to these and think, hey, would we want to live here?
Yeah.
You know, because like I said, after 27 years, you haven't really had a home beyond. I think the longest we lived anywhere was almost 4. So, well, she lived there for 4.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in Afghanistan and Iraq for like 2 years. So, but yeah, it worked out. And Texas is really nice. It's a great for veterans. It's a great place to retire. So we really like it.
So then tell me a little bit about the wines that you make and what makes them different. You say fruit wines. Tell me a little bit about your product.
Okay, so we focus on, so it's fruit wine, but the base of it is apple. So all of ours are mixed. Instead of water, we use like strawberry apple, boysenberry apple, plum apple. So everything has an apple base to it.
Okay.
And what I found is, and we actually learned this from a friend of ours who had a winery in Wisconsin, actually. And we became really good friends with him. And, you know, the one thing is that most wineries, they'll share concepts, like how they do it. They just won't share the recipe. And so everybody has to have their own little, you know, amendments that you put in. But we found that doing this apple base gives it more of a wine flavor, because what we do is we'll ferment completely out dry, utilizing the fruit, and then we can bring it back. So our concept was to give you a fruit flavor, just like in a wine. If you drink a Cabernet and you look on the back, it'll say hints of blackberry or plum or whatever.
Tasting notes, yeah.
Right, tasting notes. So what we said is, let's try to develop, and so we really worked really hard at developing a wine that, so if you're drinking a plum wine, it's still got that level of, it's not really dry because it's still a fruit winery, but it comes back and just gives you hints of like the way the fruit would be. So you're not drinking, you know, and there are some out there, there's some you just feel like you're drinking sugar water,
Yeah.
you know, and it's too much sweetness. Now we do make that because
There's a palate for that.
we have people that come in here and they're like, that's not sweet enough, it's too dry. And it's like, okay, there's the sugar cubes, add some more. But we do have a couple wines that we call them stupid sweet. And, you know, but they're kind of fun to drink, you know, if you're, especially on a hot day down here in Texas. You chill our wines. Our wines are meant to be chilled. So they're I don't care if, a red wine, white wine, because that's just the color of the fruit. But ours are all meant to be chilled. And so when you do that and you get a nice hot day here in Texas, which we've had quite a few of, it's really nice to take a nice cold wine that you're able to drink and get those fruit flavors and yet still feel like you're drinking a wine.
Do you just ferment them to reduce the residual sugar that's there so you get almost more of a dry state?
So with fruit wines, the difference is like with fruit, like everybody always says, grapes are fruit. But in the wine industry, grapes are the grape wine and then everything else is a fruit wine.
Right.
So grape wines have different rules. They can't add sugar. They have to do what the grape gives them. So that's why the vineyards, that's a whole different area. Whereas what we do is we're allowed to take it and then we add the sugar at the beginning of it to get it to the level that we want.
Oh, okay.
And so then we know how much sugar we want to put in so that when we ferment it out, we're still getting between 12 and 13% alcohol.
Okay. So you actually have the exact numbers to know exactly what to do. You're not.
Yeah. Yeah. We put everything in, do all the measurements. We take different fruits, require different amendments. You have different acid levels, tannins, and all this. So we still add a lot of those to try and get the different palates that you can get, like with drinking a wine. So you can still feel that dryness, or you can, feel the sweetness. You get the different flavors and the acidic levels. And so then, but we can manage the sugar levels. Yeah. And so we put it to a level so that we can just ferment completely dry, because then we know our alcohol level is there, and then we're able to sweeten back to the level we want.
Okay. And then your fruit that you use, where do you, in the apple juice or whatever, where do you source all that from?
All over. So we co-ferment everything with apple juice. Boysenberries we get from Oregon. Aronia berries we get from North Dakota, a farm in North Dakota. We get black currants from a farmer in Iowa. Elderberries in Wisconsin, and then a lot of the other ones we can source as juice, and so we can just get bulk juice versus the actual fruits. So that is part of it, trying to play with.
It's 100% that fruit. We don't.
We play with making the batch bigger, and then you have to source from somewhere else, or the berry versus the juice doesn't make the same wine. So it's kind of, different vintages are still going to taste differently because of how we're making it or how much we're making, because 50 gallons is way different than 300 gallons.
And you do all that processing here on site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it similar to the process for making wine?
Yeah, it's very similar.
You put the juice in, and you put your
If you've ever made wine in your kitchen, like just a hobby 5-gallon bucket, it's just that glorified.
Just on a bigger scale?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you add the fruit flavors and things like that in. Do you make like a base wine and then add different flavors to make those, or each one is an individual?
So the flavor all comes from the co-fermentation.
Okay.
We never add flavoring, except we have a Aronia truffle that has chocolate.
Okay.
So we do add chocolate extract at the end.
Gotcha.
Other than that, there's no flavoring in our wine. No flavoring, no coloring.
So the fruit is in there with the apple juice and everything. It's all going together.
And peach is one of the wines that is going to change the most. So from every year or every peach that you bite into, how it changes differently, you're not going to make up flavor. Like you either has the peach flavor or it doesn't have the peach flavor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like to me that would be a big one in Texas. I always hear people asking for peach wine here and there,
and that is absolutely what she said. To reiterate, it is very challenging. We made peach wine where we just went and got a whole bunch of peaches right here at H-E-B, just sourced it. They'll allow us to buy bulk. And we brought them in here and had over 200, 300 pounds of peaches sitting in the cottage. We let them sit for 2 weeks because, most grocery stores, they're not actually ripe. Yeah. It had no smell of a peach.
Really?
It never smelled. So that was the most interesting, that translated right into the wine, because we don't use peach flavoring. We only use a peach. So we made this. It had peach flavor, but when you would try to smell it or get you get nothing. Then the next one was made with Georgia peaches. When they came in, we went and bought bulk. Those aroma, flavor, everything, and it was just. And it's not saying that the peaches here, but they're just different. And what I found is that a blackberry is a blackberry, a strawberry is a strawberry, boysenberry, but those are all easy. But peach has always been our biggest challenge is where we're going to get.
So it definitely gives a varietal character to the wine, like you said, vintage to vintage, because almost like where grapes, you source from different places, you can get different flavors from the terroir or whatever. Same thing with the peaches, where you source those from can give different flavors and things.
And we're not against Texas peaches. We just haven't found a source we can afford.
So the quality and the affording part is a little harder.
We've actually gone down to Fredericksburg.
Are very proud of their peaches, which they can.
We tried to source them, and we said, "Hey, what if we buy bulk?" And he said, "It's that price." It's like, but I'm trying to buy 300 pounds,
right?
Because they're not going to not sell. Even if they're selling 5 pounds at a time, they're going to sell every Texas peach out there. So,
all right, listeners. Well, if you know of a peach grower and you want to sell in bulk, I know a great winery that you can talk to that would love to buy your Texas peaches.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite wines that you make? What are you most proud of here?
Well, my absolute favorite is my elderberry. It's a port style. And it's one of the things you find out is that we can't call it a port because it's not made in Portugal. But we use elderberry, and then we
co-ferment.
We co-ferment, but no, we forget
Elderberries, dark cherry.
We add brandy.
Then we fortify it.
We fortify it with brandy, but it's elderberries, dark cherry, and vanilla bean.
Okay.
All co-fermented, and that is probably, it's one of my favorite in terms of a pour style. But I make it the full amount where I don't have to go in the next tax bracket. So it's 21% alcohol.
Okay.
So it's very strong, but it's got that sweetness, and it's just smooth, and it's got all those. It's just the elderberry and that vanilla.
Great dessert wine.
And what's really interesting about it is it has almost like a chocolate aftertaste, and that's the dark cherry in it is what I've figured out. And yet there's no chocolate in it. It is really, really good.
But it would pair with some great chocolate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Other than that, my favorites are always, my plum wine is one of my favorite because I'm not even a fan of, I don't eat plums, but the plum wine, it's not overpowering. It has just that level. It's almost like a Cabernet.
Mm.
It just has a nice little level of sweetness, but still that dryness. And then my next probably is raspberry, and then maybe triple berry, but those are like or blueberry. Blueberry is actually my next. I forgot about that. That's my go-to also. My blueberry is, Melissa always likes to keep that one a little bit dry. I've had it both ways where I've had it sweeter and it's really good, but the way we have it is another one where it's just nice and smooth and has that level of dryness where you still feel like you're getting that wine tannin almost on the back of your throat. So it's really, really good. And I'm going to tell you, to add to that, those are some of our most, I think our most popular right now is the elderberry.
Yeah.
People love the elderberry.
Well, that was my next question. So what are some of your most popular wines to customers?
So we do an aronia berry wine.
I've never heard of aronia berry.
Yeah. So they're like the next superfruit. They look like a blueberry. You wouldn't actually snack on it. It's going to make your mouth, because of all the tannins in it, it's going to make your mouth drier. So it's not there's flavored waters out there, like health waters that are flavored with it.
So you wouldn't find like an aronia berry pie or something like that. Okay.
I mean, maybe they do, because like gooseberries, you don't snack on gooseberries, but gooseberry pie is delicious. So maybe they are making pie with it. But my sister actually lives in North Dakota, and she knew of this aronia berry farm, and she was telling me about them. And I said, well, from what you're saying, I've never tried it, but it sounds like it'll make great wine. And it was actually a February, because when 400 pounds of aronia berries showed up, I had chocolates on the counter still from tastings. And so I tasted it and I was like, okay. And then I tasted it with chocolate, and that just changes everything. So we make a large amount of aronia berry wine. Some of it we barely sweeten back, and we call that dry red. That's probably one of my favorites.
King of the North.
Oh, it's King of the North now. It's not dry red. And then another one is sweet red that we sweeten, and it makes it definitely smoother. And then there's an aronia truffle that we add chocolate. And that one, you either absolutely love it, and most people buy 6 bottles at a time, or you don't like it and you don't want a glass of it. So it doesn't have a middle ground, which is very interesting.
It's a very polarizing one.
Yes, it's a very,
Sounds like a great Valentine's wine.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. It's very popular.
Yeah.
Though. I mean, people
There's
really
a lot
love
of people
trying
that
it.
like
And
it.
a lot of it just gets people, and they're almost like, when they taste it, they just don't know what to think because it's just so unique, and it's really good. Like King of the North was funny, as she called it dry red. We called it dry red for longest. Dry red, sweet red. We're like, that's really easy. We always thought, let's keep the name simple so people don't
descriptive enough, right?
Right. But the problem is that as a dry red, nobody would try it because they came into a fruit winery. They like sweet wines, and I would say, well, why don't you try the dry red? And I don't like dry wines.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're in a fruit winery, so dry is very, very subjective. And they still wouldn't try it. So we all of a sudden changed the name. We said, let's call it King of the North. And everybody put it on their tasting. And everybody wants to try, well, I want to try King of the North. And next thing we know, we sold out.
Really?
Yeah, they were gone.
Again, going back to that original point of if you open up your palate and you're willing to not be, constricted by perceived notions, you might come up with something you really like.
Mm-hmm. I can tell if somebody comes in to do a tasting and is going to, like, I'm a cab drinker, I'm like, okay, well, are you creative? Like, are you interested in trying? Because if you're not interested, I have a Cab Franc that I don't make, but you're welcome to drink a glass of it while the rest of your group has a tasting, right? But if you get creative, let's have fun. Let's taste it, So just because, like you said, some people don't want to like fruit wine, and that's okay, I mean, we don't make enough wine for everybody.
So we talked about the wines. Do y'all do any kinds of, I know we'll talk about your hours here in just a minute. I know you had told me previously you're open once a month. This is kind of your own just little operation here. You live here at the site. But do y'all ever do you have a wine club or anything like that? Or people who come out for events or anything like that? Or are you just open to whoever comes when you're open?
Yeah, so we have a wine club. It's 6 bottles, gets you in the club. It's 15% off any wine you ever buy at the winery, tasting, flight, glass. You get a free glass each month. And then you are committing to 6 more bottles twice a year. So February and September.
Okay.
And we try to throw a party and we have a group of competition barbecuers that like to make small bites. So they'll just be throwing small bites out all day, and it's a fun day if the weather's good. We have unlimited outdoor space.
Yeah. It leads me to another question that I'm kind of a little fascinated with is wine pairing with fruit wine. So is it kind of similar? Do you have similar types of fruit pairings, or do you find that they're very different?
I think it goes both ways. It's definitely similar. However, we're more aware of these different fruits. So our brain already has a preconceived notion of if we like it, what it tastes like. So some people can be, I don't like blueberries. And I really don't think the blueberry wine tastes like I'm popping fresh blueberries in my mouth. But they're not going to like the blueberry wine because they already have this preconceived notion that they don't like it. I don't think it matters what you pair it with.
Okay.
Now, I talked about the Aronia truffle, and that one, honestly, I didn't like it. Like, I'm not a chocolate in my wine kind of person. But then one of the wine club pickups, they were doing pairings with macadamia nuts. And it's like your brain learns that. And now I can have a glass. Yeah, like it's great. It's almost like you remember how to taste it.
You formed a new neural pathway.
Exactly,
there.
Yeah.
Howdy, Vine Trippers. Did you know that I now have a merchandise store for Texas Under Vine? I only have a handful of limited items, but you can go check those out and wear your Texas Under Vine swag if you'd like to tell all your friends about the great wine locations we have here in Texas and maybe get them interested in the podcast as well. So there are things like t-shirts, there's a hoodie, there's a beanie, a ball cap, things like that. But one of the most exciting things I have right now is my limited time offer t-shirt. That's my season 1 t-shirt. So this is your Tasting Through Texas Under Vine season 1 t-shirt. It's only going to be available for a little short amount of time. On the back, it has all the different locations like a band tour t-shirt. So this is a limited time item and you can go out and get it now. And one of the great things about that t-shirt is a portion of every sale goes to support the Texas Hill Country Winery Scholarship Fund. So you know that by buying that t-shirt, you're also investing in the growing and flourishing of an amazing wine industry here in Texas and all of those people that are going to come and make it even better. Check out that merchandise store. It's on my website at texasundervine.com. Just go up to the top. You'll see the link for the merchandise store. Yeah, I know that a lot of times when I'm eating something, it really affects the type of wine that I pick, I'm like, I really wanted this wine, but that's not going to go well with what I'm having here. So I think I'll do this one instead, or, whatever for what pairing. I was just wondering how fruit wines are in that. You can kind of have them with whatever you're wanting. Then sounds like not as much of a restriction.
Well, we've tried to pair, like our triple berry, we think goes really well with like spicier food, like even like a pizza, spicy, different areas like that. And I do always remember the one time going back, our blueberry wine, being from Wisconsin, of course, I love cheese. Yeah. But we had some extra sharp cheddar cheese here one day, and we were just sitting there eating it, and all of a sudden I grabbed a glass of blueberry wine, and I never cared about pairing wine. I drank the wine that I wanted to drink. I didn't care what I was eating with it. I just liked the wine. Mm-hmm. But that was the first time I ever just happened to take a bite of cheese and then took a drink of the wine, and it was like that was the first time I'd ever experienced where the whole concept of the wine just changed, and it was just, I mean, it was absolutely.
The angels started singing. Yeah, I mean, there's something here.
Yeah, I told her, she tried it, and we're like, holy cow, it just enhanced all the flavors, everything was, so I don't really have that too much like that. So we get people in, but most of our wine, especially our fruit wines, they go well with, the steaks, the spicy, all this. And so you really can have it. And then, like I said, the other one is that they're just really good. Like when we had our strawberry wine, I'm trying to think of the other ones that were like strawberry for
blackberry
was super, super good on hot days. Like people loved, your pool time, sitting there, get that nice and cold, sitting there in the sun, drinking that. And it's not a food pairing, but it was a sun.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Some wines are sippers, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And they just really like that.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about what a tasting might look like. So let's say a listener's getting excited. They want to come by and check it out, maybe do a tasting. What does that typically look like? Do you have a set number of wines that they taste? Do they sit down? Is it outside? What does a tasting look like?
Yeah. So since COVID, it changed to wine flights versus wine tastings. Mm-hmm. So I have wine flight boards, 4 of them. And you get 4 2-ounce pours, and you get to pick them. And we have over 30 labels of wine, and I don't think in years, haven't had less than 15 available at one time.
Oh, wow.
So you have a lot to choose from, more than what's a great number, 8 is a great number of wines, I always say, but with fruit wines, there's so many choices. So I just keep going, oh, I should make this one. I should make this one. Let's do this one. And we try to get rid of some, but then there's this, these people want this wine. It's every one of the wines that we have is somebody's favorite.
Right.
So they're hard to get rid of too, or to discontinue, I guess.
How much does a flight cost?
$12.
$12 for the flight. And then they can taste it and pick bottles if they would like to. You serve by the bottle as well? Yep. I mean, by the glass as well, or people can buy a bottle and get a glass and drink here.
Yeah, so we're not open all the time. Right. So we keg our wine. Okay. So that we're not opening 30 bottles in one weekend and then John and I having to finish 30 half bottles the rest of the month.
It's a party in your house for the rest of the month.
Yeah. So we're able to hold it. We also do harvest host. So randomly people will be coming through and we can always offer a flight and not have to open 4 bottles just for one flight. So that makes it really nice.
A lot more sustainable too, I would think, for your operation.
Yeah.
Do people need to make reservations or anything to come out to do a tasting?
No, we don't take reservations. If you have a large party, you're welcome to call ahead. Okay. We don't say that you have to. On a side note, if you have, say, 10 or more, and we're not open, but you want to come out, just call us. We live here. Call us in advance, and we can try to figure it out, make it work.
So there's no necessary maximum group size. It's more just about letting you know so you can maybe be prepared for everything.
Yeah, we've had some company parties that are 150 people out here. But then again, it's outdoor space, unlimited outdoor space.
So tell me about your operating hours then. So you're open one weekend a month, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's not the same weekend. That would be too simple. We pretty much know 3 months out for sure. And then it's always a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Friday, Saturday is going to be 11 to 6. Sunday's noon to 4. And right now the Stagecoach Wine Trail is going on. So that incorporates 2 weekends. So we're actually open all 10 days.
Okay.
So from the start to the so from the first Friday to the last Sunday of the wine trail, we're open every day. We actually opened the winery on the first Stagecoach Wine Trail.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Is the best way for a listener to find that by going to your website? Check that calendar.
Follow us on Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook will have what wines have just been released. So there's always something coming out. If we're gonna have music or a food truck, that'll be on Facebook as well. We don't always have music or food truck, but
Fun little events on the side. And then tell me for a second, we'll come back to tastings in just a moment. You mentioned the Stagecoach Wine Trail. What is that all about?
Yeah, so it's 8 wineries in the area from Clifton to Salado. So right along 35 and west of Waco. We've just gotten together and made our own wine trail. So you can buy tickets after Thanksgiving, and it's always the last week in January.
Okay.
But really the idea is to get everybody in the area to know that we exist. So say you have family coming in or a group of friends want to go do their own wine trail, they don't have to do tickets. They just know, hey, it's May, let's go hit up 4 wines, and they already have the trail of where to go to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll circle back to the tasting here for just a second. Family friendly, pet friendly.
Yeah, so we're family friendly for sure. We used to say go ahead and bring your dog out. However, we have quite a few of our own dogs that are very nice. So we're not quite sure if we're still dog friendly.
Okay.
It gets challenging. Mainly, we don't want people to feed our dogs. We don't feed our dogs, which then, because we try to do events out here, you start feeding the dogs, they assume that everybody wants to feed them that.
Yeah, and then they're pestering everybody.
And then they're bothering them and doing everything. Yeah. And a lot of people, like our dogs, run free. I mean, we're on 41 acres. They're used to running around. They get along with other dogs. But a lot of people, when they come out here, they're not used to taking their dogs off leashes. And so a lot of people were very shocked when they first arrived here. And I'd be like, look, if you just let your dog go. And they're like, what? I mean, it's just confusing. They're like, no. I said, they're all going to get along better. And then the next thing you know, they're running all over, having a blast.
Yeah.
But a lot of it has gotten challenging. And so we're kind of more leaning towards that you probably really shouldn't bring your dog, because we've got goats and chickens and guineas that run around. They're all free range. And a lot of people can't control their dog. He's even a friend of mine. He doesn't bring his dog anymore because he can't get his dog to stop chasing my guineas and my chickens. And if he catches them, he knows that he will kill them.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Okay, so what are some of your busy or slower times? What's the best time for someone to come out and visit?
We have yet to figure that out.
It's very, it's random.
Okay.
We've been open up some Saturdays, and the whole pasture where the parking is would be full, and we have people coming and going. But then we've had other days, and I think that's the one challenge I think of Texas is you have to start realizing what else was going on, like opening up on the first day of high school football. Not a good day.
Not a soul.
No, you're just not going to see anybody. And we found that a lot of them that will be like, why is it so slow today? Then all of a sudden you realize, oh, this was going on, or that. I mean,
right.
Texas is very unique. Like they travel, they go around, and a lot of stuff, you know.
And even the weather can.
Yep, the weather
is a big.
The weather dictates us a lot, and we realize that you know we're a family farm. It's very fun. I would say we get almost 100% positive reviews that people love sitting on it. I mean, it's fun. We have pygmy goats. We have cats running around. Little dog. You know, the dogs are super nice. Guinea, and so they have fun sitting on a farm. But then I think what the problem for us is that it gets later because we're so dependent. We do have indoor space, very limited, but I think a lot of them then it's like, yeah, they'd like to come out, but it's 105. Nobody wants to sit outside in 105. Or it's 42 degrees with an 18-mile-an-hour wind. Just not fun to sit out there. And so we did build, you'll see it like the event space. And so we have a huge it's almost 35 by 35 foot, you know, covered. And me and Melissa do all the work ourselves. Like we didn't build the pavilion part, the metal, but all the deck, everything else is being built by us, and we've added this space. And eventually, it'll have retractable, slides that we can block the winds. It'll have, for the summertime, it'll have misters, and you have the fans. And then in the winter, we have space heaters, and it's a really nice place because you're sitting. Basically, you just get to look out over the pastures, see horses and whatever other countryside. So as we keep developing that, we can focus more into, and then also it's a great event space. It's a great space if you're having a party, event. We've had birthday parties. People come out and they'll say, I got 20 people on a birthday party. Okay. Perfect. And then we just set it up for them. And
now, I presume as a small family winery, you don't do any kind of distribution of your wines. So if for whatever reason people couldn't come here to taste them, do you sell them on your website? Are there ways that people can taste your wine without having to come directly here?
So actually, that is not, we are a small family farm or family winery, but we actually sell, because we sell keg wine.
Oh, yeah.
And so we actually now currently sell, they have 2 taps, and our cider is sold at Bold Republic. And we're currently working with a winery. They sell our bottled wine. Bear Arms Brewery in Waco sells our wine. And we sell, we were trying to other places. We used to be at Firebase Brewery, but they closed down. But they would sell there. And so we're actually looking at different places because we're only open 1 weekend a month. We are trying to focus and get our wines out. So we actually do distribution.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then can people buy online? Do you sell online at all?
They can buy and curbside pickup.
Okay.
But we're not shipping.
No shipping. So they can pre-order and then come here and pick it up. Okay.
And almost any day, since we live out here, it's pretty convenient.
So it doesn't have to be necessarily when the winery's open.
Correct. Yeah.
Should they call, make an appointment? I'm sure it's online. It's part of the whole process.
As soon as I see the order come through and I've got it in the box, then I'll email them to make arrangements.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
But we're always out here, so.
Yeah.
I mean, they just let us know I'm going to drive through it. Okay, no problem. And, we're here.
So do you have plans for future growth? What would you like to see with the winery?
Well, I think what we're looking at right now is we pretty much decided that we're really going to stay with the 1 weekend a month, at least for here. And our future growth is focused more on working with other breweries and other locations so that we can get our wine out, so that then people, like I said, during the summer now, we determined with these last few summers, it's too hot. So we actually close. We don't even open during the summer because it's 105. When it was hitting 102, 105, it's not worth it. It's not fun to sit in that kind of heat. And so we're really focused on the keg distribution and doing our distribution. We get our wines out there. People are able to try them. They can go to establishments that we work with, and so far they've been very receptive. Bold Republic is a great location, great brewery. They make great beer, and now they sell our wine, and they really love doing it, and it works great there for us. And I think working with the other ones, I think that's really going to get our name out.
Yeah. So you focus more on that distribution side of that. I think that's a great compliment to what your restrictions are. So you find that other avenue and then build that anticipation. When are they going to be open? Because I really want to go in.
Because then we'll be open the 1 weekend. People can come out here. Hopefully it'll be a good weekend. But then also we'll start focusing on more allowing it's a great event space. We have a couple different companies that have come out here and they love it because they basically get 5 acres. And when parents come out, and we had a lot of them come up to us, and, typically when people go to an office function, they go to a restaurant. Well, being 27 years in the military, we do all these too. What ends up happening? You sit at the table with the same people that you talk to at work. You all sit around. The boss or the manager tries to walk around and meet everybody, and then you all eat, and then you leave.
Yeah.
And they're all like, that was fun.
There's no intermingling typically.
Because it's too difficult. Ours is nothing. They've come out here. They've brought their own barbecue pits. They've brought the bounce houses. They'll rent them, and they got bounce houses out here. The kids are running everywhere, and and most of them are very respectful. because we always warn them. I mean, we're still a farm. Our stuff, like our barn where our goats are, it's not necessarily a safe barn. This isn't, this isn't, as we talked about before, it's not funny farm.
Not the romper room.
Yeah, it's not. It's a barn that's very old. And so we always tell people, and usually we tell them not to go in there then because it just gets too hard. But I think if we really focus on that, I think people will find that this is it's a great opportunity to get out. Everybody gets to run around, they get to meet, they get to mingle, and they usually have, most of them have just a wonderful time. They really love it.
Yeah, so we want to have more planned events. So maybe steak nights and brunches where we know who's coming out, we can cater towards them, have a good time in that way. And as far as the breweries, having our wines at the breweries, it's kind of opposite of most wineries wanting to commingle with the breweries. But a funny thing with wineries and wineries can't sell beer, but breweries can sell wine.
Interesting.
They don't need anything different with their licenses. So they already have the tap system. We push our wine with nitrogen, so they just need it. And a lot of them are doing, like, say, a stout with nitrogen, so they even have that going on for them. So it's really simple for a brewery to just add a few wines to their taps, and then they cater to twice as many people.
Mm-hmm.
And I get calls all the time if we're open, when we're open, and it's nice for me to say, hey, this place has this wine on tap, or this place is selling this wine. And just yesterday, somebody came in because they were at the brewery and they wanted to buy a couple bottles. And so they came out and did another flight and bought some bottles. So that's where our growth, that's where our focus is now.
Well, I think a lot of people too, when they go in there, they're there to try craft beers because these breweries, we can go into tap rooms too, but at breweries specifically, they're craft beers. They know they're doing, and that's what's kind of fun about ours is that when people see it and then they find out, they look up Moose and Goose, they're like, what is that? And then they find out that it's a local, and they realize that it's also a craft wine. And I think people realize that is that when you get the bulk wines, you get the different, the different ones, a Prosecco or something like this, they're, people are smart enough to realize they know that this is a bulk.
Gotcha.
And so I think it's kind of fun the same way. That's why I really like being in breweries, because then they're getting both concepts of craft wine and craft beer.
Yeah, it does seem to go hand in hand very well there.
Yeah. And you go into a lot of breweries and we'll get them a lot. That's why our friends at Firebase, they did it because they get a lot of people who come in and, predominant. I know it's probably sexist to saying that the women typically, but there's quite a few. Now, my wife, huge beer drinker. She loves different beers. She's craft and all this and loves me. I need a low IBU but you get them and they don't want to drink the beer, especially when you're talking craft beers, because they can be very flavorful. They're not your typical, big box
Lager,
beer.
yeah.
But I think it really helps them, and that's why it promotes both of us at the same time, because now people can go in there and they can do it. And I had somebody come here and they came here specifically because she was drinking our triple berry at Bold Republic, and she came here. She's like, I had to come here and try this. She absolutely loved the triple berry.
So what, in your opinion, is the number one thing that sets Moose and Goose apart that a listener might say, wow, a lot of places I could go, but I want to go check this place out? What makes you different besides, I'm sure the fruit wines, we've already talked a lot about that, but what would you say is that diamond in the rough that you are?
Well, I would say we are different for sure in the sense of the wines that we're offering, right? They're still it's a wine that tastes like a wine with the fruit flavors, where other fruit wineries are going to be fruit juice with alcohol. That's what we're not trying to be. But we're very relaxed. So sometimes you just don't want to get all dolled up to go to the fancy winery, but you could come out to Moose and Goose, pack a picnic, bring the family, and just hang out for a couple hours.
That is really, just adding that most of the customers, like when we get different people that are out there exploring first time, we had a couple who came all the way from Austin, decided that, they pick one every weekend or every month, they pick a new one, and they saw the name. That's, I'll tell you, brings a lot of people. People see Moose and Goose and they're like, I'm in Texas. I got to go. But they came out here, and that's exactly what it is they get here and they're just like, it's so relaxing. You can be as fancy. You can come out here with the big Kentucky Derby hats and dresses. And we had a bridal shower out here, and they were all dolled up, and they had a blast. They were sitting there, and I went and got a goat for them. And so they were holding the goat, yet they were completely in dress with heels and everything. Whereas we get another one, we're in the area that they refer to as East Bell County. So it's not unusual for us to get a couple to come in here, and he's right off of his tractor from plowing his field, and they sit down and they have a couple glasses of some nice chilled, fruit wine, and everybody feels like, and as we always say is, everybody feels welcome. Nobody comes here and just feels like this. It's not like they feel left out, or they feel like I'm not accepted here. It's like they just sit there and they.
Everybody could use a little more nature in your life. I love that ending quote. That's so great. And it's so true. Now, don't write off fruit wines just because you've never had them and you're not sure what that's going to be like. You really need to give it a try. It's a fun, quaint little winery to hang out at with the farm. And you may be really surprised. You're not going to find the syrupy sweet ones unless that's what you're looking for. But you're going to find some cool things like they talked about in the interview that may surprise you. Like John and Melissa said in the interview, people who come there expecting regular wine already have these ideas in their head and they kind of shut it off. But when they go to festivals and they start pouring these and people say, well, sure, I'll give it a try, they become one of the most popular tables at the festival, and they sell out of all their wines at these festivals they go to. So it's really worth a shot. Get out there and try these cool wines. And did I hear someone say barbecue? Man, I would love to get out to one of those events where they have those competition barbecue chefs out there making all these little small bites to pair with those great wines. That sounds like a really fun time. And don't forget, they're a harvest host. So if you're an RV goer, you like to get out and see the state in your RV, they are a harvest host. So it might make a great opportunity to make a new stop at a place you haven't been to yet. Now, also remember, they're only typically open around one weekend a month. So it's imperative that before you go, you check out either their website or their Facebook page to get that information on what their hours are, what weekend that particular month they're going to be open. And if it's the time, you should make a road trip out of it. Check out Stagecoach Wine Trail. That's stagecoachwinetrail.com. And you can find 8 wineries just in that region that you can really make a road trip of and hit multiple places and check out Moose and Goose while you're on the way. Now, I can imagine during a nice, beautiful, warm day in Texas, just hanging out on the farm, drinking a little bit of that awesome fruit wine that they have, checking out the pygmy goats. They have that beautiful pavilion out there you can sit and drink wine on. It would be a beautiful afternoon. And don't forget, they're kid-friendly, so bring the youngins out. Let them pet the goats and see the guinea hens and all that while you're enjoying your great glass of wine. And if you work for a company or you own your own company and you're looking for an event space for a company event, great place. They do those reservations. Companies can come out there, set up. You've got a lot of the farm to work with there. You've got great wines. You've got the beautiful scenery. Check them out. This might be the best place for your company to go have their next event. Now, make sure before you go, check out their website. It's mooseandgoosewinery.com. Pretty easy. But there you're going to find more information about their story. Things like their wine club information is on there, their tastings, all that. You're going to get all the good scoop there at mooseandgoosewinery.com. And don't forget, when you do go see them, make sure you told them that you heard about them on this podcast, Texas Under Vine. So I loved the experience after the interview of getting to taste some amazing wines that I wasn't sure about. I've never tasted some of these things before. And each one was really cool to see these different tasting notes that came out with different fruits. Now, while I was there, I have to say, I did fall in love with one wine that I had to bring home as my library episode bottle, and that's their elderberry port. So this is their elderberry port wine. It's really cool because it has all the flavors that you might have come to love in port, but there's no grapes in this. It's not made with grapes. It's really cool to see those flavors come out in a different style. So that's the elderberry port wine that I made my library bottle for this episode. Well, That brings us to a close. I have a lot of other wine destinations that I need to go to bring you all the fun info. But before I go, would you consider maybe becoming a Patreon of this show? So all of the costs I pay out of pocket for this as a teacher, it can be hard sometimes, but I want to travel to even further areas around the state. And your donations through either Patreon or one-time donations even really help me to achieve that goal. And so if you're interested in becoming a Patreon subscriber, we actually have some extra bonus content for you. So Patreon subscribers, for just a small little cost per month, you can get access to behind-the-scenes photos, videos, sneak peeks as to where I'm headed next each week. You're going to be the first to know where I'm headed next with each episode. So go out to my website. It's www.texasundervine.com. Go to the very top of the page and you'll find the Become a Patron link there. And just click on that and consider maybe becoming a patron, a sponsor of the show. To all of my current Patreon subscribers, I'm so thankful for all that you give to make the show possible. Thank you. And hopefully many more of you will consider joining us as well. And with that, my time is up. So don't forget, subscribe to the podcast and to my socials to be notified anytime there's a new episode that comes up. And until next time, happy trails and bottoms up, y'all. Thanks for listening to Texas Under Vine. We strive to provide you with the best information about wine businesses all over Texas. Be sure to check out our website at texasundervine.com and follow us on our socials at Texas Under Vine to stay up on all the upcoming episodes. Please email us with any suggestions or feedback. Also, contact us if you're interested in donating, sponsoring, or advertising on the podcast, just to help us cover our expenses and bring even more great info to you in future episodes. Above all, travel safely, and most especially, drink responsibly. Vine Trippers, have I got a deal for you. So if you haven't checked out the Texas Wine Club yet, you have to go check it out. So you can get wine clubs at all of these different great wineries that I've talked about in the episodes. But if you can't get a chance to get to those places and you want to sample some of those various wines, this is the perfect fit for this podcast. So I've partnered with Texas Wine Club. If you go to their website, they scour the whole state. They choose great wines from all over the Texas wineries, and they put them together into packs that they ship out every quarter. You could pick out a package of 3, 6, or 9 bottles, and every quarter you can get a taste of different wineries throughout Texas without having to travel to them. So if you've wanted to taste some of the great wine I've talked about on this podcast, here's your chance without having to travel. So what you're going to want to do is go to www.txwine.com and pick your package that you want to try. And when you put in my code, Texas Under Vine, that's all one word, TEXASUNDERVINE, as your coupon code, you'll get $20 off your purchase. So head on over there. You can also find the link in the show notes here for this podcast, and go check out Texas Wine. They're a perfect fit with this podcast. So go drink some great wine.